Welcome back to Flight Simulator, guys. We're here in the Bahamas, and I'm for some reason on a wing view here of the... What the hell am I doing? Nope. Okay, get that off. There we go. I am a bit special right now. We're here in Grand Case in the Bahamas, and we are off on a little trip today. We're going to be doing a little commuter run from Grand Case down to St Bartholomew and onwards to Saba. Two really tricky airports. And we're taking the wonderful Grand Caravan 208EX here today. Beautiful beast. As I really need to work on using that drone camera a bit better rather than just using it for static views like I tend to. But either way, on with the business. Here in the cold and dark caravan, we need to make sure, of course, we've got our fuel tank selected, which we have. Put fuel cutoff in. Get ourselves ready to rock and or roll. So we've got fuel in. Make sure that is set to full. Ignition is on. Alternator can be off for now. Fuel boost and battery is on. Starter is on. And ignition's on, so we should be getting ready to move now. As the prop spins up for us. Then we'll contact ATC, get ourselves out of here. It's a short little flight today in the caravan, so we shouldn't be too long with these two hops. Although, of course, we will have to make a passenger pickup and drop off at St Bartholomew before we land at Saba for our final destination. Let's get our avionics on now. And alternators are on. As soon as this tells us our engine systems, we'll be able to know what we're doing. Let's put the brakes on for a second whilst we just test throttle. Looking good. Okay, so ignition back to normal. Starter is set to motor. So we're good to go here. Let's contact ATC and get ourselves rolling.
TOS system test. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your test. Engine systems there. Not really for the caravan much in here, but let's make sure we have the correct lights on for maneuvering in the airfield. Let's get in contact with ATC. Heading from St Martin right now. So we'll be departing straight out. Untowered
Tango,
here.
Foxtrot, Golf, traffic Cessna November 40 Tree Sierra X-ray taking off runway 30 straight out departure.
Give ourselves some flaps and we'll get ourselves turned around here and to the runway. So basically it's about a 40-mile hop each way, that it's 20 miles from St Barts to Saba. Not too bad whatsoever. Okay, we've announced our departure intentions, no other traffic really calling in for now. So we'll back taxi on the runway and then we'll get ourselves into position. As I'm finding the caravan incredibly stiff on runways. I'm using full rudder deflection right now for the nose wheel. And it's really not wanting to maneuver unless I use toe brakes as well. Which is not quite how the 208 tends to behave, but it'll do. I mean, you'll see us here turning around in a second. Drop the speed down a little bit. And then we'll hit that rudder deflection. This is me on full rudder deflection. It's just not turning until I give it toe brake as well, and we're still borderline there. Unless I use full turbine to basically spin me on the one brake, which is a sure way to get bald spots on your tyres. Either way, we are good to go. Let's get ourselves out of here. We'll need to keep the ATC window open because we'll be departing shortly and getting into contact with Tower from Princess Juliana once we get out. There we go. Let's bring that engine back a little bit. Nicely done. Not one of the handcrafted airports, but for some reason, even though Princess Juliana in FSX was a gorgeous handcrafted airport in FSX, in fact the whole island was the demo island, if you remember, from FSX, St Martin, it is not in FS 2020, despite the fact that St Barts and Saba next to them are exactly that. Let's get our Class C transition here.
Approach Cessna November 40 Tree Sierra X-ray is type Cessna Caravan 1 miles west of Tango Foxtrot Golf 500 feet. Request clearance to transition Charlie airspace. Cessna November 40 Tree Sierra X-ray Juliana approach. Squawk 3011.
Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the default ATC at all.
Cessna Tree Sierra X-ray. Cessna Tree Sierra X-ray radar contact 2 miles west of Tango Foxtrot Golf 1,200 feet. Cleared through the Charlie airspace.
on navigation.
Okay, that sounds good.
Cleared through the Charlie airspace, Cessna Tree, Sierra X-ray.
Okay, so we could basically ignore, that for a little bit. So, yeah, that's Grand Case down here in St Martin. It looks great from the air, but not from the ground. And Princess J is over that way. Again, not a fantastic one. You'd think one of the most famous airports in Flight Sim, one of the most interesting approaches in the Caribbean, would have something more to it. Hopefully we'll see some add-on scenery coming for that soon, but like I said, a lot of these places look fantastic from above. This looks really nice, but down close it just looks kind of default. Maybe we're getting spoiled by FS 2020, but I'm down for that. Okay, a little choppy conditions today. We're looking at a few clouds at about 3,000 and 4,000. So it's not a fantastic day for flying in the Bahamas, but it's not a terrible one either. So we're going to basically manage our speed here into a nice easy cruise. Only 49 miles, so we're not going too high. Those islands ahead of us are exactly where we're going to. So it's not a long trip at all. In fact, in a caravan with good speed, we shouldn't be long whatsoever. Roll ourselves on course here. I'm still not a big fan of the glass cockpits, and I have noticed that a lot like FSX, we do get some performance hits with the glass panels. Steam gauged aircraft perform a lot better than they do with glass. Let's get ourselves nicely trimmed out and leveled here. Right, we're roughly trimmed, so we'll just trim with power now to neutralize the climb, and our aircraft should be good. So we're running the Caravan EX today, which means it is the executive version, so less seating. You can get 2 rows on one side and 1 row on the other side in the more commuter version, shall we say. The ones that typically operate in the bush. It's not a bad plane. It's a little slipperier than a Caravan really should be, but overall doesn't perform too badly. Let's take a quick look at our instruments. It's telling us 12.5 miles to... Wow, that's a lot closer than I realised. We've definitely covered a lot of ground already. So we should be coming up on St Barts shortly when we have those islands. St Barts and Saba are 2 very challenging approaches. St Barts because of the approach direction and angle, and Saba because of its shortness of runway. So we need to contact old ATC here because we will want St Bartholomew. And we're on traffic rather than tower. So of course we'll be landing runway 10, the only runway that's actually active here, which is over the mountain, hence the challenging approach. So we're 12 miles out, we're not going to bother with this just yet. We want to put our intentions in when we're about 5 miles out. I'm going to fly the straight approach for this one, due to our direction. Once I can see where we are, this should be a lot easier, because I know the bay we're meant to approach over. And I believe we're coming directly on track now for a long entry to base here. Should be entering left base for 10. Which would fit with my memory of St Barts. Drop the throttle down here. And you'll notice the Caravan's very slippery. Like, I'm 0 throttle right now. Engine note hasn't changed. Which is weird because we've throttled the turbine down, see? Up. Down. There are still some bugs to work out. They're not quite there yet. But the default aircraft, I don't expect miracles from them. Their bush planes are better. The default aircraft turbine modelling I don't think is one of my favourites at all. They're kind of crappy. But at the same time, I love the visuals and the general kind of realism of the sim. It's a fantastic improvement from FSX. And give it time, and we'll have a whole wealth of third-party aircraft add-ons that will truly make this thing come alive. It's almost like Microsoft wants to make aircraft that were recognizable and could be flown by new people to the world of simulators to introduce them to the sim. So if you look ahead of us, you'll see 2 small specks. Those are small islands here. We're going to be turning just before this island here. That's our reference point for our base final. And we'll be coming in that way towards St Bartholomew. Now we are going to contact traffic and let them know. So in this case, it'd be Cessna 203 Sierra X-ray is the called tail number I've given myself here. Inbound left base for final full stop runway 10. So we'll announce our position.
Tango Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Juliet, traffic, Cessna November 403 Sierra, X-ray 6 miles northwest, 1,000 feet inbound to land, runway 28.
Okay. So, turn inland a little bit here. We don't need to be too far out. St Barts is definitely one of those airports you need to use the Lindbergh reference on the aircraft down there. This is going to be a hairy approach. We're not going to use full flaps. I've never been a big fan of full flaps. It's too much of a commitment to land in most aircraft. The one thing I really think this sim has brought through that real flying has is the haze. It's how difficult things are to see in real life. Airports do not stand out like great big green squares in FSX or P3D. And the sky isn't clear. Even with clear skies like this, where we've got few scattered clouds, a slight change of angle or lighting can completely make things invisible. It makes things much more difficult to see, including other aircraft, airfields, references we're using for navigation. And we're just in here about 104 knots right now. And we're a little bit low. I'd like to climb a little bit higher to about 1,000 feet. Just to make our approach a little bit better. There we go. This thing does kind of leap up a little bit into the sky. But I don't want too much speed here. We'll announce turning final in a second. See the town there? That's where we're heading. Okay, we've got good visual there in our direction. There's the mountain peak ahead of us. Okay, let's cut some throttle out here. So you can have a flight idle, and we'll announce we're turning final and for landing.
Tango Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Juliet, traffic, Cessna November 403 Sierra,
I love how I only
X-ray,
use your
final
runway 10.
28 to land.
When 28 is the one we always use. Alright, so let's give it some flapperoni. Flapperoni and cheese. Okay, where's my reference? Okay, can't see the runway yet, but we're not too far out. I think we're off a little bit to the side. Try and get my reference. It's so hard to see the approach here at St Barts when you're over the hill. I'm squinting at the screen right now. Okay, so we're down there. We are on the right path. Whether or not we're actually on the right angle for the right path is another matter. See the curve in the road ahead of us? That's where we're going. So we have got confirmed 15 degrees flaps. I think I'm off track slightly to the left. There's the runway. We had the runway. Throttle is idle. Nice, gentle descent without picking up too much speed. We're going to have to pop this one down on the runway pretty hard due to the nature of St Barts. Coming over the trees here. Throw it into beta as we're coming down. Flaps up, full beta. And we should roll to a stop nicely here. It's going to be tight, but not too tight. There we go. Flaps up kills the lift we have as an aircraft, and beta with a turboprop certainly helps us. So, we're good here. Now let's get ourselves turned around. St Bart's definitely one of the more challenging approaches, to be honest, just because you do have to really dive the aircraft in. And you have to place it on the runway. You'll notice there I actually floated for a period of time, and that was not a good landing. I will say myself right now, that was a landing. I'm going to partly blame it on the Caravan being a bit of a potato in terms of its turbine physics, but also the fact that I floated. Okay, let's make sure we've got this ready to go. We'll pull in, shut down, and we'll let people off, and then we'll get ready for departure to Saba. Nice little commuter hop here today. And this thing does not steer. Oh my god. This is a pig. A literal pig. This is a handcrafted airport. This is where this looks much nicer. Come on, brakes and nose gear. Let's go. Why is there a fire truck set right in the middle of the terminal? Slow down. There we go. Right. We'll shut down here. I believe fuel bill is actually on because we'll be literally getting people back on. We'll just pretend we're loading now. Shut the engine down. People coming on and off the aircraft. So once we've got our passengers off, we'll pretend we've waited a couple of minutes here. We've got people on and off. And then it's a matter of basically getting ourselves back to started again, which isn't a very difficult prospect. To make sure we're holding the brakes here for engine start because turbines tend to surge initially with the FSX and FS 2020 flight model. Starters on, engine moving. Love how brave the ground crew are for pushback when they bring those things in halfway through your propeller in some aircraft. Whilst it's turning. Okay, should have had my avionics off, to be fair, before I started the engine. Can cause power surges. I'm rushing a little bit right now, but I'm not a familiar pilot to the Caravan. Turbines come up, so we'll set starter back to normal. Ignition to normal. Fuel boost to normal. Okay. We will give ourselves 15 flaps, and we're going to drop our pitch back here. Okay. St Bartholomew traffic, Cessna November 403 CRX. We're taxiing for departure runway 28. I'll just call it. It's going to be easier than using the stupid ATC. Okay, so we'll pretend we've got no traffic heard over the radio. St Bartholomew traffic, Cessna November 403 CRX Ray is entering runway 28 for departure to the west. Right, let's give ourselves our full pitch so we can actually get some power out of this engine. And once we're here, we are good to rock and roll. So let's do it. Okay, speed is good. The rudders are also pretty twitchy in FS 2020. Way more than they have been in previous sims. A little bit of wind on departure here. Get the turbine back. Nice cruise ship in the bay. Positive flaps up. Need to trim that out. Big chunk of nose down when you remove the flaps in the Cessnas. Hello, cruise ship. You're looking nice. Okay, we are going to roll around now for our departure towards Saba, which is just 28 nautical miles from St Bartholomew. Let's see if my wing camera looks good here. And it's moved completely. I thought I had it set up somewhere else. Never mind. That was not the direction I wanted that set to. I had moved the drone camera right under the wing. It looked really good. It looked like I had a GoPro, which is nice. But either way, onwards to Saba now. Roll ourselves level. We'll make a turning once we pass that first island and head across to Saba. Not a long little trip to there, but in fact, see just ahead of us there, you might see the island just peeking out the clouds. There she is. Right. I need to remember the ICO code for Saba, so where's Garmin Pilot? And it's frozen. Great work. Let's try and level myself out here so I can actually get time to grab the iPad. Okay, so we're looking for Tango November Charlie Sierra. Tango November Charlie Sierra is Saba. So let's get ourselves leveled out here and worried less about crazy altitudes. About 2,000 feet or just below it right now. Should take us a few moments to get there. Neutralize our climb. Get our power set. And we should be Gucci. Yeah, the Caravan's flight model is not comparable to ones I've flown in the past. A lot of time in the Coronado one. Never flown one in real life, of course, but the Coronado one with Burnt Stoll's flight dynamics on it was probably the more realistic of the Caravans we've had. And it's very much still plagued by Microsoft's turboprop physics. It took companies like Milviz with the Turbo Otter and the PC6 Porter, an entirely out-of-game engine to really simulate the PT6 properly, PT6 turboprop, and Microsoft's never quite got it. They can do jets and they can do piston aircraft, but their turboprop physics have always struggled because it is a combination of both. You're essentially operating, for those who don't know, a jet engine that has a shaft attached to its turbine blades. So as it spins the turbine blades with the engine, there are blades in the exhaust essentially. So your air comes in, it turns the actual fan blades, combustion happens, which fires exhaust out, and the exhaust turns turbines in its exhaust. Those are connected to a propeller. So you essentially have a jet engine powered propeller. Great performance out of a prop aircraft, but in fact ridiculous in some cases. But the bigger part there is that they do tend to make things a little bit more complicated in terms of simulating that in a game, because now you're dealing with the physics of a propeller along with the physics of a jet engine, the spool up and down times, roll on and off of N1, internal temperatures, and they've never quite had it correct. Numerous aircraft in the 2020 are pretty good, but some aircraft like the Cessna 172, which I've flown, is way too draggy. It will fall out of the sky. It's like a lead brick. They're not that bad. Also, they made its nose wheel steering work way too well, which it doesn't. Especially on a 20-30-year-old flight school model, they never work properly. But the Caravan, for example, is incredibly slippy when it should be a lot brickier. Although thankfully they got rid of the bug where when you roll down the throttle to 0, like this, if this was FSX, you'd see a chunky drop off of power. Whereas FSX turboprops had this issue where they would literally just fall off the power as soon as you zero the throttle to flight idle. Just keeping the island ahead of us, dead center in our windshield. We're not really watching our altitude too much. We're not really watching our airspeed other than to keep it in a good cruise speed. We're just keeping eyes on the location. Just a nice, simple VFR flight. Keep it about the same height there. Dead center. Call this good. Simulator performance isn't terrible. As I mentioned, having glass panels in an aircraft is worse performance than steam gauges, so if they were to release versions of the aircraft they existingly have with steam gauges like this Caravan, that'd be fantastic. Or if Coronado brought their Caravan out with steam gauges. The Cubs are probably the best example. Flying the Zlin Savage Cub has about 15-20 FPS more than the Zlin Ultra or the Cub Crafters, both of which use glass panels. So as much as I love the idea of glass panels, and I never thought I'd say that because I'm very much a steam fanatic, I love the retro feel of them, and they're familiar to me as a pilot who's flown steam gauges. I will say the information available to you on glass panels, especially with synth vision, and just the ability to have data displayed to you is a phenomenal tool for pilots. It has and will and does improve pilot safety. But in the sim, they've still not managed to work out how to do it properly, because essentially, in terms of a development standpoint, you're looking at a picture-in-picture display. So this is a picture. The game is rendering this. All of this. So when I do this, the game renders that. But now the game also has to render screens, or other views, if you will, and that's the way you need to see them is, they're not just a animated image, they're essentially another window. So another rendering of the simulator's data. So if you look at the PFD here, you're looking at the synth vision on the display, you're looking at it moving around. That's taking the information from the simulator and displaying it in that format as if this was this. Same goes for this with a lateral format, and the same for that. So you're dealing with essentially 4 total renderings of the simulator, which does actually reduce performance somewhat. And I am waffling about so much techno-babble that you guys probably don't want to hear it, but I guess this is my, not only a fun little flight, but my second real review of the simulator from a week or two's experience, 2 weeks. There's an upcoming major patch which will increase performance for install, download. There's a couple of performance fixes for things that don't matter, like having pilot names overhead, and some stability, but the devs have taken a week or 2 off since release, valid break, and essentially this is going to be their first real return to start putting patches out, so there are a lot of things for them to work on. The world data they've pulled from Bing Maps isn't flawless. There are plenty of locations that are messy. One of the things that bothers me is one of the airports in Alaska, NEK, November Echo Kilo, Nanukik, I think it is, up near Homer, is one of their handcrafted airports for a landing challenge. A handcrafted airport. And if you look at the hill above the runway, there's a gap in the world where the data's wrong, where there's a satellite pass that was different to a previous one, and you have this big separation line. You'd think of all places they'd fix their stuff at the handcrafted airports. Of all places. To have that big a bug, visually, at one of their handcrafted locations. Microsoft, come on. People paid huge money for this. They're expecting a less sloppy approach than that. I can imagine little glitches appearing near standard generated airports, but... Oh god, we've been descending this whole time. Distracted pilot syndrome, folks. Here's me talking to you guys and not actually paying the hell attention. There we go. Let's get ourselves neutralized out. Saba's airport is just ahead of us here, so we don't want to be too high up, but that was me descending, and thankfully something that the glass system actually told me there with the audio interface telling me I'm sitting here at 500 feet, which I hadn't recognized until I was talking to you guys because I wasn't paying attention. One of the benefits of the simulator is I could afford to not pay attention, unlike real life. Okay, so runway should be on a 12 based on our direction of approach here. We're going to be swinging around to the south of the airfield to make our approach. Let's tell the airport we're coming in. Nearest airport list, looking for Ranko I Vasculigulin. Tango November Charlie Sierra. Saba. So we're likely going to be coming in here on 30. Let's let it do its thing, shall we?
Tango November Charlie Sierra traffic, Cessna November 403 Sierra X-ray 5 miles northeast, 600 feet inbound to land, runway 30.
Little O. Yeah. And also, that's another thing that majorly annoys me. Apparently, female pilots don't really exist in FS 2020. We exist in that there are visual player models of female pilots, both in pilots' uniforms and civil clothing. But unlike FSX, where there were 10 pilot voices to choose from, both male and female, pretty even split, FS 2020 has literally just this male pilot voice. That's it. So, apparently women are seen and not heard in FS 2020. Good work, Microsoft. You think... No? You couldn't just use the same voices you had from FS and the same AI to kind of generate those voices? No? Too much effort? Probably? Yeah? You'd think... little things that are missing, I think, that really... They're streamlined a lot. They've made a lot of things better, including a lot of the control inputs, but they've really missed a few tricks, I think, with this, in terms of things that were simple they could have done. There's the haze again coming in as we're approaching the island. Airfield is basically there, as you can see. So we're going to be entering base.
Tango November Charlie Sierra traffic Cessna November 40 Sierra X-ray.
Keep my eyes
on
open
base
for this
runway
one.
30.
Get the speed down here. Watch our overall speed. Oh, there goes the nose up with the flaps. Let's put that back down again. Now this is where I'm going to have to monitor my speed carefully on because it's difficult. And we are a little low, as I mentioned, due to me talking too much and not really paying attention to the flight. We're turning final now.
Tango November Charlie Sierra traffic Cessna November 403 Sierra X-ray.
Here it goes, peering out of the haze. Roll it in nicely.
500.
Nice and gentle. So speed, we're looking good. Ooh. Yoke's still a little sensitive, so I'm still working on getting the settings just perfect to be a little smoother. But thank God I don't have the Pro Flight yoke, I actually have the Cessna, Cytec Cessna one. Look at those rocks, those are gorgeous. Aim where I want to land. That was a sexy landing. Come on, stop me. That would be really recommended. Please. Oh, yeah. That was good. I will take that. That was not a bad landing for Saba. Told the airplane where I wanted to touch down, and she did. And oh, those rocks appeared out of nowhere. Let's get this baby turned around and clear the runway. Again, the nose wheel steering is potato in this plane. Really, really bad. Actually, that's one thing I'm really quite disappointed with the Caravan. Yeah, I do apologize we weren't looking at the airfield too much when we were coming in here with the Caravan, but I was too busy trying to nail what is a pretty tricky runway. Tango November, Charlie Sierra traffic, Caravan 03 Sierra X-ray, clear the active. There we go. Right, so our parking brake's on. Shut down and welcome our guests here to Saba. After their little adventure on some short-ass runways. Okie dokie. We're good. Engine shut down and the journey is completed. Do need to program my controller to actually work with this system. Oh no, it works. Oh my god. My controller actually works. Oh man, that's so smooth. Look at that. God, that's sexy. Oh, yeah, triggers up and down. Okay, my Xbox controller does work with this camera. Woo! Let's have a little bit of a look around here. Look at this. That is gorgeous. Oh, it's so easy to get cinematic with this camera now. Oh yeah, flight sim cinematics. Look at that. That bay is gorgeous. I could honestly come here for a holiday. Maybe I will one day. Oh wait, it's hot. I don't like that. Hot sucks. They really put some effort into these handcrafted airports, especially places like Saba. The entire island's gorgeous. And what I thought was a pretty little beach is not quite as pretty, but at least they've got lifeguards, right? There we go. Man, that is so cool. And fields of solar panels. Well, as we slowly pan back in towards... Oh, that's roll. Ugh. What do these buttons do? I don't know what these buttons do. As we roll back in towards our aircraft here on the apron at Saba. I thank you for watching. and flying with me here in the Caribbean. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.